Welcome back to the Holler. tnholler.com is where you can find us at the TN Holler on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all those places. We also have Hollers hollering all across the state. Thanks to your support. We really appreciate it. Chip in a few bucks a month and grab one of these Holler hats like the one I'm wearing. Shout out to Elisa Parker. If you're buying or selling in Middle Tennessee, do it through her. She's very supportive of us. And if you need a lawyer ever, Mark, when you're in Nashville, Abby Rubenfeld.
I call Abby or I call nobody. You know,
That's
you're
exactly
walking
right.
down Broadway, you have no idea what's going to happen. I keep Abby Rubenfeld's number in my back pocket.
That's right. She's actually a rock star. She helped argue Obergefell before the Supreme Court. So,
wow.
Mark, thanks for doing this, man. Really do appreciate it. Been a fan for a long time. I guess I just want to start by talking about the thing that you seem to be talking about the most, which is cost plus drugs. Can you just tell people the elevator pitch of like what cost plus drugs is?
It's really, really simple. There's no transparency in healthcare, particularly the pharmacy side, except the cost plus drugs. You go to costplusdrugs.com, you put in the name of the medication. We don't carry them all, but we carry about 7,200 of them. What's different about us, when you put in the name of the medication, imatinib, tadalafil, whatever it may be, we show you our actual cost. You know exactly what we pay for it. We mark it up 15%. If it's mail order, it's $5 for the pharmacist to review, $5 for shipping. That's it. We want it to be that transparent so people trust us. And because our markup is only 15%, drugs that if you just walk in, like you have a high deductible plan or a high copay, even with your insurance, if you go to a big pharmacy, you might pay hundreds, if not $1,000 or more for something we might sell for $25. That's the difference. We don't try to price to market. We try to do what's fair, and it's always just 15%.
And that was born out of this idea that our system is broken. You identify opportunities in the market. This is broken. We can do this better.
Yeah, that's it. Really, we started when the Pharma Bro was jacking up the price of this drug called Daraprim, 7,500% or whatever it was. I was like, that's insane. How does that even happen? And it's because nobody knows what anything costs. And people are just terrified about the cost of their medications. And we try to change that. And we started January of 2022, and we're still the only place that'll publish their entire price list. You can see everything that we charge for any medication.
So that sounds to me like free market capitalist version of downward pressure on pricing, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Similar idea to when Biden or the government wanted to let Medicare negotiate prices with
Yes,
Medicare.
yes, no, right? Not really. They were trying to determine what would have the greatest impact on people. And it's almost impossible to know what the second order impacts are. Not to get into all the inside baseball
stuff.
Right.
I'm not trying to drag you into it. I'm just trying to understand it a little bit better, because I'm openly going to tell you that like I am a believer in Medicare for all. And I've heard you talk about it before. You didn't sound completely against it. I think you think it's going to be tough to ever get there.
Yeah,
and I guess what I would just look at it as your way of downward pressure.
Yeah, they serve. So let's take it in that direction, right?
Okay.
So the ultimate goal is everybody has a right to healthcare, right?
Yes.
The question is, do you pay for it 100% via taxes, or do you let some people pay for their own stuff? You support them when they can't afford it. I'm a big believer that you let them pay what you can and you support them when they can't. We do that with Medicaid. We don't really do it with Medicare. Medicare Advantage and Medicare Part D and even Medicare supplemental insurance are all run by private companies. And so when we talk about Medicare for all, it takes a big lift to try to get us there. Then the response is always, well, every other Western country in the world has universal health care. But the difference was they started way back when, even before MRI machines. So it wasn't like there was this huge investment. You start at a low cost, and then as technology advances, they were able to add some of the stuff, not all. Whereas here, because we've never done that, the whole country's just gone all in on every technology, which makes us more expensive per capita, but also gives us more life-saving results per capita.
So politically speaking, part of why I believe in that is because Democrats are always searching for how do we show people government works? Like, how do we impact people's lives in a real way?
Not by how we do it now, not how the progressives are doing it now, right?
Right. Maybe not. It just seems like if we could help people's lives, like you're impacting lives in a real way. I see the tweets.
So we're on the same page, right? The question is the path. The way I see the path to get everybody healthcare, you can afford what you can afford. Like once you're outside the Medicare range, $15,000 for an individual, $30,000 a couple. Once you have more income than that, then it starts to get really complicated because you're already paying for some things. But I've read Representative Jayapal, Bernie Sanders' proposal for Medicare for all. First things first, it says this proposal will be implemented by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Can you imagine if that was being implemented right now?
Well, that's fair.
So the way I look at it then is with transparency and fair pricing, as long as I can have an impact and we help millions of people, I can help push prices down. And that's exactly what we've done. We've pushed the price of drugs down. And we're going to go into the healthcare side as well, the medical side, with something we're calling Cost Plus Wellness that hopefully will be out by the end of the year, where we're going to be publishing contracts and prices for medical services so that companies and people can find the cheapest opportunity. If we can push the prices down enough, then you kind of get into a position of what Canada did. The way Canada got into universal healthcare was in 1947. I forget which province, but they decided we're going to create this budget and we know what the prices are, get as much affordable healthcare for people as we possibly can. Then that went to the next province and next province. And even today, they set a budget and they buy all they can. People spend out of pocket what the province can't afford. I kind of see that path as an opportunity. So if I can push those prices down, the city of Nashville or the city of Dallas can say, look, we know what our claims are. This is what it's going to cost us. And we've decided that we're not going to charge premiums, a big deductible or max out of pocket. We're going to cover as much as we can. And what we can't cover, we'll guarantee, if you will. Here's where the Democrats are going wrong. Who's the most hated industry or type of company in the whole country right now?
Insurance.
Yes, the Democrats are talking about the ACA premium subsidies, right? Tens of billions of dollars. Who do those checks go directly to?
Insurance companies. Yeah.
The insurance companies that create ACA plans.
Well, right. And this was the big complaint that a lot of even progressives had about the Obamacare and propping up insurance companies.
So then the question becomes, what's the real problem? Right now, Republicans and Democrats kind of point that health insurance is a proxy for healthcare. It's not, because when you look at most ACA plans, let's just say you've got 3 kids and you're married, 5 people, you're going to have a deductible under an ACA silver plan for $5,000 or more, just your deductible, and a max out of pocket of $19,200. Your problem isn't whether or not you have insurance. Your problem isn't whether or not you can afford the premium. Your problem is you can't afford the deductible.
You might as well not even have insurance.
No matter what, you might as well not. So the insurance companies know this better than anybody. Here we are trying to send them more money and they're giggling all the way to the bank. So what I have said is you can't transform things overnight. I get trying to keep the subsidies in place for the short term. But if I'm the Democrats, and I've said this to people, we have got to start doing guarantees for the deductibles, so that people can afford their deductibles, because without their deductibles, one, they choose not to go get care at all. Like, fuck it, I can't afford it.
It's happening all the time.
All day, every day. 40% of people don't have $400 in the bank. What the hospital does or the doctor does, they'll say, I see you have insurance, but you can't afford your deductible. I'll loan you the money myself, or I'll use this third-party company to loan you the money so that we get paid the deductible, which allows us to take money from your insurance company. That turns hospitals into subprime lenders.
Yeah.
And so when you hear about all this hardcore, horrific medical debt, it's really not the fault of the hospitals. They're just trying to help people get the care, and there's no other choice in how to get it to them. So what's the better solution? If you want to buy a house, we'll partially, if not fully, guarantee your mortgage. In some cities, they'll help you put up money for your down payment. Like Kamala Harris wanted to put up $25,000 for a down payment. If you want a school loan, an agricultural loan, they'll guarantee it. We'll guarantee all these different types of loans, except if you're falling apart, you get this horrific injury, you go to the hospital, they'll stabilize you. But if you don't have money for your deductible, you're toast. And so what I told them was, do it in the short term, get the continuing resolution and do what you got to do, but set a time limit on it. This is the time to work on programs that say, we're going to make sure everybody who has a deductible plan is going to be able to afford their deductible. You don't need to lend me money, but if somebody is making $50,000, we're going to lend you money and you're going to pay it back out of your paycheck, but we're going to means test it. So it might only be 3 or 4% of your paycheck. And after a certain period of time, 5, 10 years, whatever it is, we're going to kill it. We're going to say you don't owe it anymore because we want to be fair. But even doing all that, what happens is now people would get higher premiums, more out of pocket, and then lower deductibles if they could afford it. You don't have to do that anymore. And the path, if we do it right, is no more insurance premiums. With what you would have paid in premiums, you can go to a primary care doctor and get your basic stuff, right? That's part of the ACA. But now if the shit hits the fan, you're paying just a percentage that you can afford out of your paycheck. And the hospital doesn't have to be a subprime lender. They get what they need to. And it gives the government a chance to say, okay, hospitals, doctors, if you want to participate in this program where you don't have to be the subprime lender, then you're going to stick to the pricing we set, 120% of Medicare or whatever it is, which is higher than their cash price. but lower than what they'd get from the insurance company. But the insurance companies are going to freak out, right? Because it effectively gets us on a path to where we're saying we don't need you anymore. For 160 million lives, they work for companies that self-insure. So the insurance companies aren't taking any risk for them anyways.
Warren Buffett called it the tapeworm of American
Yeah,
business.
that Ford is not an auto company. It's a benefit.
It's a healthcare company, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. What you're doing there is obviously really commendable. And I think everybody should know cost plus drugs exists. I'm going to shift you a little bit. Not what I really want to talk about, which is the Knicks and basketball. I told myself I wasn't going to go there. One of the things that we hear a lot right now is, well, they voted for this.
Right.
With all this stuff that's going on, with all the things that Trump is doing, do you think people really voted for what we're seeing right now?
No. There's some things they did. Donald Trump, to use a basketball analogy, he's great at half-court shots. He sucks at layups. There's just a lot of self-inflicted wounds. Look, what he's doing on the border, when I campaigned for Kamala, this is what they would have liked, but they never would have gone this far. Now, what he's doing with deportations, that's ridiculous. That could be done much better. Here in Dallas, we had a horrific shooting this morning, right, where somebody shot at detainees and killed 2. The way they've handled deportations, you can't just say, well, they voted for this. This is impacting people's lives. And so what I always try to ask myself, like with healthcare, what can we do to change it? Because just ripping on Trump, it's great sport and it's great for resistance and all that kind of stuff. Great to march, never going to downplay that. But you got to give people a better alternative, something to go to as opposed to just going away from. Where are the Democrats when it comes to deportations? Like, I would be calling out Tom Homan, not because he's deporting people. I mean, Obama deported millions of people.
So
now,
did Biden,
he did it differently. He told the companies he would find the companies if they had illegals working for them. But if I was in Congress, I'd be pushing Homan. Here's the 11,000 you say are killing and raping people, ICE's most wanted, and go down that list and you'll have the support of everybody. But just having people in mass pulling grandmothers off the street and deporting American citizens or people here illegally, that's horrific. Even Republicans' perspective, that's not what they voted for. They voted to get the criminals off the street. But the Democrats want to just keep on using trigger words that they think brings them all together as opposed to having causes of action. Let's push Tom Homan to list those people. Why are you worried about this grandmother or grandfather or this 16-year-old? You've gotten 3 of them? Great. There's 11,797 left.
And I'm with you on all that. I just think there's a reason that they're not focused on that. And it's actually pretty dark. The Stephen Millers of the world who have a lot of control over this. What they're really trying to do is stop the demographic shift, and they consider that white genocide.
How do you counter that?
How do you counter that? Right.
Where I disagree with a lot of Democrats, it's all about the vibe, taking that and extrapolating it to democracy is over. Extrapolating doesn't put food on the table. Extrapolating doesn't make people change their day-to-day lives. Simplifying something so that everybody agrees on it, so that people can get behind what the Democrats are saying, and it puts the people who are doing the wrong things in a position where everybody says this makes sense. That, to me, for all these things Trump's doing, is the way that it needs to be approached. What is the better option in these circumstances? Put them in a position of having to defend themselves. If you went to the Republicans and say, wouldn't you rather see ICE's most wanted criminals that killed and raped and them focus on that? If you're not willing to put that list up, why not? If you can't find those people with that extra 50 billion or whatever it was, you suck at your job. And we need to get somebody else in that job. It's not about Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller wants 3,000 a day. Great. You want to talk about what happened on the train in Charlotte? That happened to be an illegal immigrant. Let's get people focused on finding those people. There's only so many things you can do in a day.
Yes. Sometimes I just feel like we're trying to have good faith arguments with people who are not interested in them. One of the things that you said there was Democrats extrapolate out to democracy is over. I will admit to being an alarmist on that level. And what I keep saying is that the alarmists have yet to be wrong. Speaking to you as maybe the only billionaire that I like, do you think the wealthy community understands that's at risk right now and is concerned about it?
But again, the question is, what creates change? The obvious is the obvious. It's not that people are stupid or don't see it or don't understand it. It's just what's going to change their minds. How are you going to get people to vote against that? And just saying Trump sucks in one manner or another, or Trump's going to destroy the country, it didn't work in November of 2024. It's not going to work in midterms.
With that one, I'm more wondering about the caving and the capitulating.
It's not caving or capitulating if you have a place to go. You have to understand what it is that will create the change that the business community will follow. So why did all these guys, Zuckerberg, Elon, Michael Dell, etc., why did they,
Everybody but you, basically. Yeah, go ahead.
why did they get on their knees, and why did they get especially gold crusted knee pads when they went to the White House? You have to put yourself in their shoes. There is a war to win AI. There's one war between us and the rest of the world, particularly China. And then there is Gemini at Google versus Meta, ChatGPT at OpenAI. You've got Grok at XAI, Perplexity. We don't know if that's going to be a zero-sum game. So if you're them, Mark Zuckerberg, and you're spending $50 billion a year and you're literally borrowing money, if it means you need to bend the knee to Donald Trump, guess what? He's 41 years old. Donald Trump, hopefully, is only going to be here less than 4 years, and he's gone, but AI is going to keep on going. So that's a big part of what's happening there. The second big part of what's going on is you never ask us to do anything. You just say we suck, and you just say we're controlling everything.
Who's this? Me?
Anybody, right?
No, I mean, because you're right. I'm just wondering if you mean me.
No, not you specifically. Okay. But what I said, like in Blue Sky, I get crushed now in Blue Sky.
Is this relating to like when you were involved with the campaign, like they weren't dialed into this?
Yeah, that was part of it. But I mean, just right now, this very second, the thing about the oligarchs, the billionaires, is income inequality. It's not how much we have, it's how much less everybody else has.
Sure.
Right? And the question is never asked, how do we increase everybody else? It's just tax the hell out of them. We'll eat the rich. Mark, we'll eat you last, maybe,
We'll eat you last, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, but it never is the discussion. How do you increase the net worth of all the people who are struggling? And, Bernie started it with what? You're shaking your head.
Well, I mean, I would push back a little and say that,
Sure,
I do think that is what progressives want to see happen.
But the question is, how do you get there? Is it just taking minimum wage to $20 or $25? Does that solve income inequality?
I mean, I think it's all of it. Higher wages, it's taking the anchor of healthcare off of people's necks, investing in, we always have money for wars, but we never have money for projects and housing. And
that's the thing. It's not projects and housing that are going to increase people's net worth. I've been there, right? I've slept on the floor, 5 roommates, eating mustard.
I don't mean housing projects. I mean like infrastructure projects.
No, I know. I get it. But those create X number of jobs and not nearly as many jobs to change enough people's lives. The question becomes, how do you increase the net worth? Because where income inequality happens isn't so much on wages, right? You want people to have more wages so they don't stress, so that they can pay their bills and pay for care, take care of their kids, live a life they're not having to work 3 jobs. Yes, I've said it many, many, many times. I'm okay with increasing minimum wages. I've increased the wages at my companies.
Right. You do it voluntarily. I've seen that.
Yeah. To me, it's an embarrassment if anybody who works for me is on Medicaid, right? Because that means they're not making enough and the other taxpayers are subsidizing my business. That's just wrong. On the flip side, when people say this person made $57 million a year, it wasn't in cash. It was in stock. They probably made $1 million, $2 million, which is still a lot of money. But the reason they were able to become billionaires or whatever is because they had something that was an appreciable asset.
I think to your point, it's not about how much that person has. I think that just becomes a way to highlight the real problem, which is how little everybody else has.
Right, but how do you solve it?
Right. Well, I mean, that's not an easy answer.
Well, no, right. It's not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight for sure.
Right.
But you have to get it so that people have more appreciable assets. If you have a house, you're keeping up most likely. That's one area that helped. But more importantly, I would push, if they put me in charge.
We're going to get to that. Go ahead.
It's not going to happen. But I would be pushing out, if I were the Democrats, scenarios where in order for this to happen, right, it might even be reducing your taxes. If you want to see your taxes go down for your company, now not below 21 or 15%, Kamala proposed 28%, net out at 23%. If you want to see 23%, then what you have to do is give every single employee equity in your company on an equal ratio to earnings.
You're preaching to the choir there. Absolutely.
But you see what happens.
That's what happens in other countries.
Right. But you see what happens to people's net worth. Now we've seen the stock market skyrocket. And yes, 61% of people own stocks or pension fund, have ownership at some level or another. It's not enough people. The other 40% are just falling further and further and further behind. And so we have to find ways for them to get paid more. Now, government jobs, other jobs, they're not public companies, they're not private companies. So we still have to deal with that. But going to rich people and saying, we'll make it better for you if you make it better for them. That's the disconnect that I have.
I guess I would wonder, using history as prologue here, this happened after the Depression. Everybody turned around and said, well, the rich had too much. I think the highest tax bracket was 91% or something like that to pull us out of it.
Even when you go to the 50s, when it was the 90+%, the effective tax rate was really close to what it is now.
I hope we don't have to go through a period like that before these conversations start happening.
No, but that's the whole point. The Democrats aren't proposing anything to maximize what you're taking. For somebody who's making $125K a year, has 3 kids, you know what their effective tax rate is? 3.3%.
You mean because they can write off their kids? And
yeah, because they get $2,000 each on their kids, $30,000 standard deduction, then 10% of the first $12,000, that's $1,200.
Effective tax rate is a lot higher on poor people.
It just depends on your standard.
If you're taking into sales tax and
so if you're taking into account sales tax, yes, right. So
which happens here. I mean, that's what our state runs
100%
on.
there, 100%. Yeah. But on income tax, we're nowhere near. And that's why I'm pushing so hard on healthcare. The biggest tax that people have
I completely
is the premiums they pay. It's the premiums you pay. That same family now,
100%.
They're paying $800 with subsidies. They'll pay $2,100 without subsidies. That's a huge tax increase. And if I was the Democrats right now, that's what I would be saying. Donald Trump is going to increase your healthcare tax for a family of 5 making $125 or less. Your tax is going up from $800 to $2,100 per month. It'll vary a little bit by location. 12-13% tax increase.
On some level, Dems are saying that.
They're not saying it in a way that's easy for everybody to understand.
So that's what I was going to say. It's who's saying it and how. You've got the messengers. It's not landing for people.
Because they're not saying it the right way. They're just saying the premium subsidies are going away.
You either got it or you don't. If you can't speak to people, you're not going to learn that overnight. Right now, Jeffries and Schumer, people have tuned them out.
All they have to do is just say, let me tell you what the Donald Trump healthcare tax is. Donald Trump wants to increase your healthcare taxes by 12% for a family making 125%, by 75% in your premiums if you're making $30,000, give or take. That's the Donald Trump healthcare tax. That is a fact. It is a healthcare tax. But if you don't know how to sell, that was Kamala's campaign's problem.
It was. And part of this is
50 cents.
The other part of it is, do they hear it? I saw you post about the TikTok takeover, More Perfect Union post about this, which is just nuts. 5 companies now own 90% of U.S. media market. Comcast, Disney, Warner Brothers, Paramount, News Corp, between them own 90% of the United States media market. One is Fox. Then Ellison just bought one of them. Then apparently he's going to buy the other one. And then the other 2 already caved. Elon owns Twitter. Ellison's going after TikTok.
Let me tell you what they're all missing. I'm always the contrarian. In my businesses, I always ask myself, what would kick my ass? What could somebody do to put my company out of business? Okay, what's the thing that people are missing? Comcast. Comcast also owns cable. If Comcast wanted to fuck with Fox News when they did all the stuff with the 2020 election and lied, in this environment right now, they could have yanked Fox News from however many millions of homes they have. Whoever owns DirecTV, I don't even know who owns it now. Same thing. So while everybody's bitching about what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, I can argue both sides of it, right? Because I've been in. Okay. I've worked for ABC on Shark Tank, so I know the standards and practice and all the shit that they do and what they told us not to talk to or what they edit out. But Comcast, just like you saw the Sinclair stations and Nexstar that are trying to merge, pull Jimmy Kimmel off.
He's not back here.
Yeah, Comcast could pull any cable company off. Now, couldn't keep him off for long because there's contracts and everything, but could fuck with them to no end. But wait, there's more, right? So let's talk about the Jimmy Kimmel thing. The fact that Jimmy Kimmel is getting all this shit right now, and the guy running, Brandon Carr, is talking his shit. They don't realize how badly they're fucking Sinclair and Nexstar. Because what's going to happen is you can't put your best content on broadcast television anymore. You can't invest in great content. It'll be all sports and news, but anything else, comedy, scripted, it's going to be so sanitized. It'll be like watching TV in the 60s where you got
Russia.
Or Russia, right? It'll be so limited. But who gets hurt by that? Nexstar and Sinclair, because other than local news, they're not going to have any great shows, maybe Shark Tank. But other than that, they're losing access to the best shows because that censorship impacts the content that's created. And it only impacts it on broadcast television. And the people that are impacted most by broadcast television changes are Sinclair and Nexstar, which are going to be the largest number of stations. The irony of all this is, remember when Soros affiliate bought Odyssey and 200 radio stations, and it was the end of the world because they were going to go from conservative conservative to something else, and nothing changed. From the liberal side, see, we lived up to our end of the bargain. We bought and did change. On the Nexstar Sinclair stuff, they don't know that they're digging their own grave. They will be sports and news and 1960s television remakes of Get Smart and MASH and whatever, because you can't take the risk. Brendan Carr or the FCC shutting you down. So you're not going to invest there. You're going to invest in your cable companies more. And then if Comcast, other distributors that own the pipes, if they decide to have an impact, it's going to be insane. Got to be careful what you ask for. And sometimes the things that seem obvious are not.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, and I know we're coming to the end of this session here, so
we got to do this again sometime.
I would love to. I appreciate it too very much. It sounds, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm picking up on a sort of strain of somewhat optimism that it's going to be okay here, which I need. So am I wrong?
I'm scared about 2028 as much as anybody.
Okay. Are we going to get there?
We'll get there. They'll be paid along the way.
Let me just add to that though, because I know that the market's up, but I also see that he's hiding data 1984 style. I see our soybean farmers begging for mercy already. There seems to be underneath the surface a lot of pain.
It's not even underneath the surface. It's bifurcated. Yeah, right. Rich people are doing better. They're buying everything to keep the numbers up. Like, I can buy whatever. You raise my prices 15% to cover the tariffs. It's not going to change my life. But if you're a farmer, you're a beef farmer in Nebraska, soybean farmer, if you're just working your day-to-day job and just trying to get through the day, you're getting toasted. And that toasting is not happening in New York or Los Angeles or Boston as much as it's happening in Parkersburg, West Virginia, York, Pennsylvania, the reddest areas of the country, because they also got hit by Doge. They got hit hardest by the Social Security offices closing. All those things had a significant negative impact on the amount of funds they had for their communities, the mayor has available to them, the jobs that were there, which in turn leads to leases being given up and businesses closing, and the little candle shop that was been there for 25 years. You know, I like to read the articles in red towns, red newspaper. So every now and then I'll peek at Parkersburg, West Virginia. The Daughters of the American Revolution had a museum there that lost their funding. There are two worlds. And I just got into it with a Republican friend of mine, interest rates going up or down. And he's like, well, things are holding up okay despite tariffs. They're not impacting prices. I'm like, you don't get it. Those tariffs, even in some of my Shark Tank companies, because they sell to down market, not the richest people, they can't raise prices, but they can cut back people.
Right.
That's what's happening. The Democrats have got to come up with change items. Don't just bitch at the people you can bitch at. That's like a 16-year-old, right? It makes you feel better, but you got to come up with action items that people can get behind. All the things I've told you, I've told senators, I've told congresspeople, research analysts, posted on Blue Sky, I posted it on Twitter. That's what the Democrats are missing. Look at Mandami in New York. He's Trump. He is Trump from the other side.
I would argue that Trump from the other side is kind of what the Dems need.
Well, but what he's doing is he's lying his ass off.
About what?
About grocery stores. Ain't no way he's going to get grocery stores to work.
Well, you mean he's not going to be able to get them passed, or they're a bad idea?
They won't work. He can open up all he wants. Grocery store business is hard. Locally run grocery store is near impossible. Now, liquor stores work because there's a ton of margin on liquor stores.
I don't want to go down the Zohran thread with you too far. I would just offer that he is kind of doing a little bit of what you're advising, which is he's giving people a clear alternative for where he stands for. So even though it might not come to fruition, at least people can look at him and go, I know what that guy stands for. And that's
right.
Not
but
a
that's
lot of Dems
exactly what Trump has done. The Democrats, for the most part, haven't learned from the past 10 years. Trump says anything to get you to go along with them. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying he's the only one who's learned. Like when I talk to some of these Democrats, I'm like, go hire. I even went on a chat group where I knew somebody who worked for Zohran in their social media. I'm like, can I hire him?
Yeah, for sure.
I'll make it available to the Democrats. He knows, he's learned. Social media, doesn't matter if what you say is true or not. They just want to know you're thinking about what impacts their lives today.
Right. And Trump was really good at diagnosing the problems. It's just his solutions make everything worse.
Right. You know? But he still doesn't matter what the truth is. He says what you want to hear.
That's a scary place to be, man. But yeah, you're right.
Doing too. Zohran's doing the same thing. It tells you where his head's at. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. But to your point, it lets people know he's thinking about the here and now for them. That's where Trump has excelled. He lets people know he's thinking about the here and now, not extrapolating what would happen in 4 years, because people just going to work don't give a shit about what's happening in 4 years if you can't pay your bills today. That's what I keep on trying to push on the Democrats from the time I tried to help Kamala. It's got to be about the here and now. Whatever it is you're talking about, how does it impact someone's life today? How do you reduce their stress? Like this dude, James Talarico from Texas.
Awesome.
I love his ass, right? I had a chance to talk to him and I texted him.
He's been on here twice.
Badass. Honestly, I think he and Erica Kirk should sit down, not to debate, but just talk about what the country needs side by side and let people listen, share their approach to life and how you can have a vision of wanting to help people and bring people together and still differ politically on some items. You know, they're not going to agree on abortion or this or that, but people like that with followings, what Erica said during the ceremony was incredible. That matches up. James is very religious, very thoughtful, very pastor-like because he is a pastor. Bring those people together and who knows, maybe we can start talking about things that impact people's lives and how we can do them together. That would be enormous.
A good note to bring it to a close on, Mark. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, just two things. First of all, I just want to shout out my buddy Rashid because he and I have been on the opposite sides of the Balmer debate. I'm not going to make you get into it, but he is with you entirely on it.
Yeah,
and I've been with Pablo most of the way. And
all you got to do is Pablo's only shown 2 payments.
I'm not going to get into it. I just wanted to shout out Rashid and let him know that him and Mark.
Thanks, Rashid. I got you. Me and you, Rashid.
He's going to love that very much. And then the other thing I just want to say is I appreciate that you even knew what the Holler was because, you know, we started this 7 years ago. That's awesome to hear, you know.
And good for you for being an entrepreneur, right? Because people talk about there not being enough liberal voices, progressive voices. And it's not an easy gig to grind through it all and get sponsors and pay your bills and stay alive. One other thing real quick, where Trump has dropped the ball 1,000%. You never hear him talk about small businesses or entrepreneurs. Never. But you never hear the Democrats talk about them either.
Can I ask you to just say, I'm Mark Cuban and follow the Holler?
Hey, I'm Mark Cuban. Definitely follow one of my favorite sites, the Holler.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate you and everything you're doing. Stay in touch, okay?
Definitely. Let's do it again.